speaker, Maya, is a junior at Newton North and has a passion for international relations and politics. She tries to encourage productive dialogue through extracurriculars such as Model UN and Debate Team, and as founder of the Middle East North Africa Club, she hopes her regional and international knowledge will encourage others to become more observant of their surroundings. Please welcome Maya.
Hi, everybody. In times of conflict, it's easy to view our adversaries as faceless threats, as mere obstacles standing in the way of our peace and security. We build walls, both physical and emotional, between us and them, and in doing so, we forget the most powerful truth of all, that the people on the other side of the battlefield are human beings just like us. Imagine for a moment if we chose to see our enemies not as enemies, but as individuals with their own fears, hopes, dreams, and families. What if we humanize them, understanding that behind every uniformed soldier, that there's a person with their own story? The way we see the other shapes how we act, how we fight, and ultimately how we rebuild after the dust settles. My name is Maialen at Al-Awam, and today I want to explore why humanizing our enemies, especially in times of war, is not just an act of compassion, but an act of moral strength. Culture means everything to us. A lot of people grow up in environments where culture determines every decision they make, where they study, what they study, if they choose to pursue a higher education at all, whether or not people get married and why they would, and their perspectives on the world around them are all shaped by these things. We hold a lot of these values close too, and these perspectives translate over to our military and our diplomacy operations overseas. The culture thing doesn't really just apply to us, it's universal. Everybody has a perspective on how they think the world should function. Every decision that we make and that they make is determined by something. If we don't understand why other countries' governments do the things they do, it would be like skipping to the 5th chapter of a book without having read any of it. You'd lack a lot of vital historical backup and cultural context. Speaking of which, languages depend on context. Every language does, and according to the Smithsonian, a nation's language is a key descriptor of not only its history and culture, but also its exigence. Let me teach you something new. High context languages are languages that routinely rely on historical context, references to culture, and nonverbal gestures. Medium context languages are languages that occasionally do, but mostly rely on current events more than history and banter and jokes. Low context languages use current events and verbal communication almost entirely. Arabic is known as a high context language that often relies on recent and sometimes older history to communicate to natives, like a native, in a way that natives understand. English is considered medium to low context. Many Middle Eastern countries operate within what sociologists classify as high context cultures, where communication relies heavily on nonverbal cues and historical references, as well as tradition. Expressions that are used by people of all religions refer regularly to Muslim phrases of casual blessings, remnants of the Ottoman Empire that still shine through in everyday interactions. MashaAllah refers to something beautiful. Bismillah is said before eating or drinking something. Salam alaikum to greet somebody formally. And these phrases are not just used by Muslims, they're used by everybody. Though these examples are attributed to most Arabic-speaking countries, many similar devices and linguistic patterns exist all over the Arab world. This contrasts with the United States, which is considered a lower context culture where communication tends to be a little bit more direct and less reliant on historical context. U.S. service members must adapt their approaches accordingly, incorporating an understanding of their partner's historical narratives to prevent miscommunication and build stronger alliances. Anti-American sentiment skyrocketed in many Muslim countries. The rhetoric of many extremist groups is that the West is outdated, does not understand, and therefore does not deserve to remain in power. Not only is this detrimental to our national security and the safety of us and our allies, but we're missing out on so much by allowing this sort of misunderstanding to continue. Misunderstandings can be attributed to some blend of a lack of desire and a lack of opportunity, but we can change that. Quote, "In the hands of skilled manipulators, language can be transformed into a weapon of war, capable of inciting hatred, demonizing opponents, and justifying violence. Inflammatory rhetoric, dehumanizing language, and propaganda can all serve to fuel conflict and undermine prospects for peace," according to Algott and Getzau and Tabor in 2009. It's time to stop allowing these kinds of mischaracterizations of American culture abroad to continue. But in order for that to happen, we have to address the root of the stereotype. It starts with us, our ability to adapt, to develop a learned, shared understanding with our enemies before it's too late. It's harder to commit a crime against someone that you sympathize with. When we consider people to be alien from us, we are more likely to discriminate against them. Before the Haitian Revolution, and after the French one, French policymakers wanted to justify their dehumanization of Haitians to perpetuate their enslavement. How did they do it? They wrote in law that Haitian people were something other, that they were not human and therefore not deserving of good treatment and liberation. Of course, the Haitians have had their revolution, and laws like this are significantly rarer in modern times. However, the notion remains that lacking empathy directly translates over to mistreatment and poor decision-making. This is extremely humanitarian, and from the perspective of a young person, I worry about what our bureaucracy will look like if we continue to neglect the importance of cultural empathy and understanding. How will other countries want to cooperate with us if we don't demonstrate any willingness to understand? French-speaking countries were polled. 42% of French-speaking citizens around the world believe America is too conservative, while 54% believe that America is too isolationist in terms of political and economic activity. We isolate ourselves, maybe because we're powerful, maybe because cooperation isn't something that we require to stay afloat, but that's all speculative. What I can absolutely tell you is that we are hurting our image on the world stage. In a miscommunication incident in Afghanistan, 5 American soldiers were killed along with 1 Afghan. This is a more concrete example of why proper communication and language learning saves lives, but not the only valid or understandable one. Quote, "Language can also be a powerful force for peace building, fostering understanding, promoting empathy, and facilitating dialogue," Petrowski and Walker in 2006, end quote. In the aftermath of conflict, reconciliation efforts often rely on effective communication to heal wounds, rebuild trust, and prevent future violence. According to the Smithsonian, we operate in 40% of the world's nations. Shouldn't our cultural awareness match our spread? There's the map. I forgot that I animated it. We have a massive opportunity to become a country that relies on diplomacy and communication. We have an option here to become a country that others can find themselves relying on, and in the process, we can strengthen our relationships with allies and make war something slightly less tragic. The myopic American view of other nations, specifically the Middle East, creates a deeply unnecessary divide between us and those who we are fighting with. First and foremost, we must understand that empathy, put simply, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, is one of the most powerful forces we have. When we recognize that we are all human, we gain the ability to connect with people on a much deeper level. This is not just a moral ideal, but a strategic advantage. In war, the enemy is often portrayed as other, a faceless, nameless group of adversaries. But by embracing empathy, we can see beyond those labels and realize that at the core, all people, regardless of their nationality, culture, or beliefs, share the same fundamental desires, the fundamental desire for safety, family, and international cooperation. In moments of conflict, empathy allows us to de-escalate rather than inflame situations. It challenges us to ask, why are they fighting? What are their fears? What are their hopes? What do they want? This does not mean we abandon our own values or the necessity of self-defense. Rather, it gives us the wisdom to approach others not with hatred, but with an understanding that opens the door to dialogue, negotiation, and peaceful solutions when possible. So, instead of just being the stereotypical dumb Americans, let's be diplomats. Let's be learners, communicators, and strategists. Let's open the door for more effective communication and cultural empathy, not just to sing Kumbaya and hold hands, but because strategically, our place on the world stage depends on it. So, pick up the second language, read the book, learn something, question what you think you know, and don't be afraid to do it. Remember, nothing changes if nothing changes, and change starts with you. Thank you.